Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Cougar, the Bitch, and the Wardrobe. I'm your host, Lana Mazer, also known as Curated by the Cougar. If you are new to the podcast, welcome. And if you are already a listener and subscriber, welcome back. And thank you so much for your ongoing support. It truly means the world to me. And just by you listening really helps the podcast to grow. Today, we're going to be diving into a topic that is going to be intense and will probably fire me up a little bit just because I have recently been dealing with a situation, and this will make more sense in a moment when I introduce the topic. So, today's topic is selfish, jealous, insecure, and watching you closely. How to spot them and move different. Too many people take jealousy and selfish behavior lightly. But I'm here to tell you it's no joke. The fastest way to drain your energy is to stick around people who don't even value you. And let me tell you something, self love isn't selfish, it's your superpower. Today, I'm going to break down for you how selfish, insecure people move, how jealousy shows up in sneaky ways, and why shrinking yourself is never the answer. So, buckle up because we're about to get real. And what I think is really important to point out about this topic is that these types of people can really show up anywhere. They can show up in your family members. They can show up as friends. And they can also show up in romantic partnerships. So it's really important to be aware, and hopefully I can help you become more aware of what to look for and why it is so important to practice self love and self preservation. So, the first thing I want to talk about is self love versus staying in draining situations. You don't stay in situations that drain you. People with low self worth will endure anything just to avoid being alone. They accept crumbs, they tolerate toxicity, they confuse staying with loyalty, but it's actually fear. Someone who loves themselves moves differently. They don't beg for respect or fight for scraps. Their worth is not up for debate. And walking away isn't giving up, it's making space for what they actually deserve. The fastest way to lose someone who loves themselves is to treat them like they don't matter. They'll show you how much they matter by disappearing. Self love, again, isn't selfish, it is necessary. And I'm giving all of these bullet points to explain and showcase how, in situations that I've experienced, how I have chosen to move in a different direction. And I think that it's important because even in the case of romantic relationships, marriage, I've heard it so many times where people don't want to leave a relationship because they don't want to seem like they've given up, like that they're throwing something away. And I will tell you from my experiences with both my first and second marriage is that I truly felt that walking away from those marriages wasn't me giving up. It was me making space for what I actually deserve. Now, granted, that realization didn't come overnight, but it was something that it took time to get myself there. But once I was aware of it, I moved with ease into that next phase of my life. And regarding my first marriage, as I've talked about on a previous episode, I think a few months back, is that during that first year of marriage, my mother got really, really sick. And after just being married for about 6 months, I found out that my mother had 6 to 8 months to live. And she passed. And my husband at the time was not there for me at all. Not there for me when she was sick, and certainly not when she passed away. And then in that period of mourning afterwards, was not there for me either. And as much as that marriage was new and young, I knew that I deserved more. How could I even entertain being with someone that couldn't support me in that way? And I was nowhere near at that point thinking about having children, but it was very clear to me that I wouldn't be able to have a family with this person because he was unable to prioritize me in my time of need. So for me, with him, it was, he was just very selfish and very self involved. And for me at that point, walking away was not giving up, it was making space for what I felt I actually deserve. And similar but different in my second marriage, my ex was always prioritizing his friends over me. And he prioritized what everybody else thought, but wasn't really that interested in what I thought or my opinions. And for me, that was a very clear example of his own insecurities. And I also felt that it was a bit of jealousy on his part, where he was never able to celebrate my wins. And again, there's obviously a lot more there, and I'm oversimplifying everything for the purposes of our conversation today. But again, walking away was not giving up, it's making space for what I felt I actually deserve. And if I'm to bring this full circle now to something that happened to me recently, I had a friendship with a woman in the town that I live in, and we became friends and probably close friends when she was also going through a divorce. I was going through my divorce. And so I think we really connected on that. And she has a daughter who is a similar age as one of my kids. And so we really connected between similar life circumstances and the children. And I think what I really appreciated about her was that she is very smart, very intellectual, and she's a passionate person. And she is the type of person to want to have deep conversation. And I love that. I am not interested in wasting my time having superficial conversation with friends. Like that to me is just not interesting. So we were really able to like dig deep, get beneath the surface, and I appreciated that. But over time, there were a lot of red flags. And again, I know I've spent so much time on this podcast discussing red flags and not ignoring them. And I did. And so, in a lot of ways, because I ignored them for so long, it really built up and kind of blew up. But over time, I was really aware of how painfully insecure she is and how she had so many trust issues with her boyfriend. And I also felt that she was just so selfish. I mean, we would have conversation for hours about things that were going on with her, like how things were not great with her boyfriend, then things were great with her boyfriend, and everything in between. Everything was about her, her career, her lack of career, her issues with other friends, issues with coworkers, you name it. And I really became aware of this, that I was being used and taken advantage of. Like she would just drop off. She wouldn't just drop her off, but she would ask me to drop her daughter off here. And that's fine because her daughter would hang out with my kids, but it was never reciprocated. She never said, "Oh, like, the kids are with you, but like next time, like I'll have them over at my place." Like that never happened. And I've taken her daughter to the mall to go shopping. I've even had her daughter sleep over my house on a night where my kids were with my ex husband. And I did that to help her out on more than one occasion. And this continued and continued, and it just became more and more toxic. And to the point where she would be here at my house getting into fights with her boyfriend. They would be outside having an argument to the point where my kids were like, "What's going on?" Because thankfully, this was very shocking to my children because even though I'm divorced with their dad, my ex and I were always able to behave in a way where we didn't argue in front of the kids and we were able to manage our emotions and our responses to one another. So, this was happening on multiple occasions, multiple times of her crying in my kitchen, crying at dinner with me and the kid, where the kids were like, "What's going on?" And it was just really, really unhealthy. Her tracking her boyfriend's movement on her cell phone, freaking out if he didn't call her back right away, didn't text right away. I had dinner with them. I'm a member at Soho House. I took them to dinner at Soho House one night and they got into an argument at the table. So I excused myself and sat at the bar so I could give them privacy to figure their shit out. And so there was so much stuff, so much stuff. And having conversations with other people that had had issues with her, it was the same story. Not that I needed confirmation from other people, but it was just interesting that this is a similar pattern because this is who she is. And the thing that is really important to notice and recognize with people is that you can never have a rational conversation with an irrational person. You can talk to them until you are blue in the face, to try to get them to understand your perspective. But if it's something that perhaps sheds a negative light on them, they are never going to say, "Oh my God, I am so sorry. What can I do to improve this situation? What can I do to undo the hurt, or what can I do to fix this?" It is never ever going to happen. And I knew this about her just from conversations with other people that had had similar experience with her, that it was never like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry for doing X, Y, and Z." Her response is, "You've misunderstood." I mean, that to me is gaslighting 101, you know. So I knew this about her. And there were a lot of things that she requested of me, of my time, my energy, that were highly inappropriate and completely imbalanced. And it's not even worth going into all of it right now. But I'm just stating this so that you can understand that it was one thing after another, after another, after another. And I really got to a point where I couldn't tolerate this anymore. I just found her toxicity to be palpable, and I found her exhausting. And I really didn't enjoy spending time with her anymore. It created so much anxiety for me before, during, and after, that I knew that I had to be done with this. And so basically, what happened is I made a decision to step away from this friendship. And I knew that I didn't want to get into the details with her why, because I knew that it was never going to be received in the way that I had just mentioned, where she would say, "Oh my God, like I'm so sorry, like I've been unaware. What can I do to fix this?" And I knew that I didn't want to tell her how I felt, that I think she's extremely selfish, because I didn't want to add fuel to the dumpster fire that she is. And so I just wanted to exit this friendship, and with my head held high, and also preserve her emotional well-being and mental state, which is literally skating on thin ice. And I was very much aware of my actions and what I wanted to say to her, and was just, she was pushing me to understand why. And all I said was, "I think that we are no longer aligned in our friendship, but I wish you all the best." And I mentioned this in our episode last week, is that you never owe anyone an explanation for the purposes of self preservation. Less is more. You don't owe anyone an explanation. If you don't want to give one, you don't owe them one. A silent, quick exit sometimes is best. And that's really ultimately what I was trying to go for. Now, I found out that while I was away, and I'd sent her this text message, that she contacted a former friend of mine, that they're not even friends. And not only that, they both have expressed to me separately that they dislike the other one. They've met before a few times at my house because they're both friends of mine. But then they had brunch together while I was away. So it was, session one of the I Hate Lana Club. And but I kind of like laughed to myself, like, this is so middle school. This is so pathetic, but okay. And then I found out when I returned that she started like reaching out to friends of mine, like on Instagram and things like that, like people that are not her friends. Fine. So basically, when this really blew up was this past Sunday. I was at the gym minding my own business, and both her and her boyfriend were at the gym as well. And after the workout, her boyfriend said to me if I would come outside. He really wants to talk to me and to her. And it was really inappropriate. If he wanted to talk to me about anything, like he can call me. He doesn't need to like drag me outside into the parking lot in front of our gym. And also, like, I think it's in such bad taste. Like, I don't want to air my dirty laundry at the gym. Like, it was so inappropriate. But I acquiesced and I went outside and he said to me, the two of you are going to have to work this out. You're going to have to fix this. This place is my church. And he said, for two people that have been so close and were there for each other, at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I want to be like, hold that statement because I might have been there for her, but not the other way around. But I didn't. I didn't say anything. And so basically like demanding of me that I fix this. And I was so taken aback and really like, they cornered me and pushed me into this situation that I said to him, and she was standing right there. I said, with all due respect, I don't want to fix this. And I don't want to work on this. This has been a completely one sided friendship. And I no longer want to interact with someone who is an emotional parasite. And that, of course, upset her. And she yelled in my face and said, how dare I insult her? But I mean, they pushed me into this situation. And then she got very agitated because she said to me, you've been talking behind my back. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And then she said that I've been talking to her ex husband. Now, her ex husband also goes to my gym, and he's a lovely person. And quite honestly, I've really not spent any time with her since October. And I see her ex husband at the gym probably 6 days a week. And we chat about life and things and whatever. And he's super nice. And so I had conversation with him about my concerns with what's been going on and whatever. And so she became immediately agitated. Since when are you friends with him? And I'm like, since I see him every day. And she yelled in my face that I need to take responsibility for my actions. She stormed away. And I said to her boyfriend, I said, look, I have a lot of respect for you. And I really respect your work ethic and your persona. But I no longer want to be a receptacle for her toxicity. And that was it. And after this happened, I was very, you know, shaken and upset that they forced me into this situation that I was really trying to avoid. And eventually, like when I kind of like settled into it, I thought, okay, well, at least now she really knows how I feel, and hopefully she will leave me alone. Well, no. The next day, I get a phone call from my ex husband, and he was like, you're never going to guess who called me. So before we got divorced, I mean, my ex knows her, and, we've had like, even when we split up, like in the beginning, maybe there had been drop offs or pickups. And so, we all had each other's phone numbers. Okay. But the two of them have had nothing to do with each other in over 2 years. In over 2 years, nothing to do with each other. Okay. And after this whole interaction happened on Sunday, I told him. Now, I may get aggravated with my ex, and I have obviously my own feelings and issues regarding him. And at the end of the day, that's why we're not married anymore. But we do get along and we do co parent in a great way. And so I speak to him and I told him what happened. And he was like, oh my God, like I can't believe that. It's crazy. And the next day she calls him. He didn't pick up. And immediately he called me and he was like, you're never gonna guess who called me. And he even forwarded me the voicemail. And so she was calling him under the guise of wanting to talk about real estate and get his professional opinion. Meanwhile, they do two totally different things in real estate. Like he was like, what I do has nothing to do with what she wants to do. And then she was like, maybe we could meet for coffee or meet for lunch. So he never called her back because he was like, she's the psycho. And I said, pretty much. So I really felt at this point that she was targeting me, and she has continued to do so with other people in my circle. So, but that's where that story ends for now. And I'm hopeful that it is over because I want to go to my gym, work on my glutes, feel good about myself, feel good about my body. And also, that community of people that I've met there has been so instrumental in my life since my divorce. And it's really been a wonderful place for me and made a lot of friends and, and friendships that I cherish and value. And it's really just a place of positivity for me. So, unfortunately, it is temporarily tainted, but I'm hopeful that with time it will just subside and go away. So, getting into that a little bit, the psychology of jealous people is they are emotionally immature. They lack emotional intelligence. They don't understand that jealousy is misplaced inspiration. They operate from a scarcity mindset. When they see someone winning, they don't think, oh my God, if she can do it, I can too. They think, why her and not me? And again, I think that is so poisonous and toxic because I find that we are so um, made up of the people, or made up, composed of, I don't know what the right word is, but like made up of the people that we spend time with. And so I am always wanting to be with women or men that inspire me, that might be doing amazing things that I want to celebrate that for them. And then it inspires me that, oh my God, like this is so amazing. What she's doing is so cool. Oh my God, what he's doing is so smart. Like, and I learn from these people and I absorb their intellect, their energy, their prowess, like whatever it is, but I find it exciting and interesting. And I always want to be there for my friends to attend something that they might be promoting or doing for work or showcasing or whatever. And I found, especially with this former friend of mine and the same person that they had brunch together in the I Hate Lana Club, that neither one of them was ever supportive of what I was doing with my brand. So, meaning like they never listened to my podcast, never said, oh my God, like what you posted the other day, that reel, that story, that was really cool, or that was interesting, and I really like your perspective, or nothing, never said anything to me about it. I don't think, and actually, I don't think either one of them follows me on my business Instagram. And when I had asked them to, follow, like, subscribe, comment, neither one of them ever responded. Actually, this former friend of mine, her boyfriend responded, but neither one of them did. And that to me right there is sheer jealousy, sheer insecurity, not being able to celebrate someone else's wins, someone else's success. And I just think that's really sad because I find it inspiring to share in my friends' successes, in their wins, to learn about their passions, to hear their perspective, to learn something that maybe I don't know anything about. That's cool to me. That's awesome. And what also adds on to that is you can't shrink yourself to make these people feel comfortable. I think that so many of us do that. I've done it too. I think to myself, let me downplay my life, my wins, my happiness, because I don't want to make this person feel bad. And then you feel almost like, okay, well, I'm going to talk more about my problems than my success to make that person feel more comfortable. But it doesn't work. You could hand that person all your struggles on a silver platter and they will still resent you because it's not about what you have, it's about how your existence makes them feel. Your existence agitates their demons. So, how do we determine who these people are? So, the signs to look for, one is pocket watching. And what I mean by that is they're obsessed with how much it costs to be you, meaning, like, how much does it cost to live in your house, your car, your lifestyle, your skincare, your treatments. They frame it as curiosity, but they're measuring themselves against you. Also, the constant comparison, uh, because they have such fragile egos. They always need to feel like the biggest person in the room. They want to feel better than everybody else. Meanwhile, people who are actually winning aren't obsessed with showcasing that. And when I say winning, like, people that feel good aren't putting on a show. It comes from a deep place of security, of confidence, of pure love and energy, and wanting to showcase that. And it's not even about like showcasing, it just exudes from that person. You feel it in their energy when they walk into a room. And I know that everybody knows what I'm talking about right now. Like, you see that person, your friend, your gym buddy, maybe your neighbor that you get along really well, whatever, a coworker, and you just like, you see them and like, he or she puts a smile on your face. You feel good. It's like that warm energy. And then you sometimes, the other side of that is that person who is insecure, is jealous. Their energy is like, oh, it's just so draining. Like, you feel the energy get sucked out of the room. So that's really how I want to explain that. And again, like, it's funny because obviously I love fashion and style, and for me it's really about, I enjoy it. Like, it's like I get to play dress up every day. Like, I love putting on a great outfit. I love doing my makeup. For me, it's like a very creative form of expression to like find different ways of mixing and matching my outfits. Like, I don't care if I'm going to like a gala or I'm literally going outside to my mailbox or to Whole Foods. Like, this is who I am all the time. And that person who feels poorly about themselves, it's not about your outfit, your success, your life. It's about how small they feel next to you. So I've gotten these comments before, and I'm sure others of you have, like, wow, you're really dressed up. And who are you trying to impress? And I had this situation with someone a year ago, and literally after that night of going out with them, this is a friend of mine, I never wanted to go out with them ever again because We went out locally to like one town over, and we went to a restaurant and then to like a bar to listen to live music. And I picked her up in an Uber, and the first words out of her mouth were, "Why do you always have to dress like 125%?" I was like, that's an odd way to like say hi to me, but like, okay. I mean, in my mind, I was like, why do you have to show up like 35%? I didn't say that obviously, but like it was just so aggressive and rude. And I was wearing these like, and then we went to the bar and I was wearing these like really cute like shoes, like these like booties. And she's like, why are you wearing mesh booties? And I said, why not? Because it goes with my outfit. Like like I could like that's the reason. And so the translation is your confidence is exposing my insecurity. You don't owe them an explanation, and you definitely don't need to tone yourself down. And after that night with this person, I was like, I didn't have fun. She tried to make me feel like shit. And I'm like, why would I spend time with this person again? So I did it. And to speak more on that, stop shrinking if that's what you're doing. Stop shrinking in your relationships, your romantic relationships. Stop shrinking with your family. Stop shrinking with your friends, your coworkers. You are not here to make insecure people feel comfortable. If they don't want to show up fully, that has nothing to do with you. I think it's funny, like going back to when I went out with this friend of mine and she made these negative comments about what I was wearing. Like, again, fashion, clothing, whatever is a form of self expression. Who made the rule that women have to match each other's level? Like, I choose to dress this way. You choose to dress your way, and we can happily coexist. But I'm not looking for insults. I'm not going to do that to you. So, like, I don't expect that for me. If you want to dress up, dress up. Don't ever shrink yourself to accommodate insecurity. And I think that the unfortunate truth about insecure women is it's not a surface level insecurity. This is a deep rooted insecurity. Women who are deeply insecure are not confident people. And it's funny because sometimes they can present that way. And this former friend of mine who had brunch with, I just sound like former friend. I promise I have friends. just, I've literally had to shed a lot of negativity from my life. But like this one person, she comes off as like this super confident person, like very impressive. Not the gym friend, this other friend. And she's so insecure because she has remained in a relationship with a man for the last 8 or 9 years. And I have been in the room with them where he's called her fat and made negative comments about her body and the way she looks and the way she dresses and her, I mean, and he's cheated on her and ignored her at times and given her the cold shoulder. And I mean, on and on and on. And that type of person is deeply insecure. And the truth is, that type of person cannot be a true friend to you if you are a confident person. Everything you do feels like competition to them, and they will never be genuinely happy for you. They cannot and will not ever celebrate your success. If it has nothing to do with them, they will never be able to applaud your success and be happy for you. And that's really the core truth of it all. If you are not happy with yourself, you cannot be happy for someone else. You can't root for others because you're not secure, content, or confident in who you are. And I'm at this place now where I don't want these women in my life, and you shouldn't either. And so, if any of this has resonated with you today, please send me a DM on Instagram, on TikTok at Curated by the Cougar. You can also find me on YouTube at Curated by the Cougar. I do post the podcast there as well. And you can also find the podcast on Apple Music and on Spotify at The Cougar, The Bitch, and The Wardrobe. Until next time.